Okay. Hello, my sweet angel babies. Another fashion month has now passed and it's been so wild. Oh my god. I feel like it's so easy for a lot of people to complain during this time, and I think it's just because like there's just so much happening at once. But I want to first off say that I am so grateful for even being able to participate this month and being able to just, you know, bop around town, wear some cute fitties, and support some more sustainable practices and designers. And typically I like record a video during this time, but this time I focus mainly posting that on like Instagram and TikTok. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for YouTube for this, and I thought, you know what, it could be really cute to take some time to process my thoughts from that month and also be able to answer some of y'all's questions, because I know that Fashion Month, Fashion Week can seem contradictory to some people with sustainability. And if you have been around, you know that this page is all about sustainable fashion. And if you didn't know that, here we are, you're welcome. But yeah, I opened up a question box over on my Instagram and also in the little community page for this channel about some of y'all's questions. And if you're here and you're like, oh my god, Jazmine, I wanted to see the fits that you pulled, that you slayed and ran around town with, you could go ahead and see it on my Instagram and TikTok. Shameless plug. But the outfits were very cute, so gotta hype myself up a little bit. Yeah, let's get into the first question. So someone said, some things I would like to know are the schedule that you followed for Fashion Week, and if you did any like public outfit changes, funny or fun things that happened that made an impression on you, and what you saw versus what you wanted to see more of in your top 5 favorite styles that you saw. Love this because this kind of helps me like summarize what the main overarching themes of Fashion Week was for me. So starting with the fashion schedule, I usually just start off looking at the official New York Fashion Week page. They release it like a month in advance, but you see things as the weeks get closer leading up to Fashion Week, like more and more shows. And I try to look up the shows as I'm going. There's some that I recognize already, but then there'll be others that will be there for the first time. Like Dauphinette was on there. They've had shows before, but I'm pretty sure this was their first runway show on the official schedule. And then also one of my favorite brands, Page 5, had their very first runway and it was on the official schedule, and it was really cute to see. I'm not sure how the first like New York Fashion Week schedule works, but I don't necessarily think that it gives more validity towards the runways than those that are off. Like, not that this is like a necessarily sustainable brand, but it's like even like a big name like Coach wasn't officially on the New York Fashion Week schedule, so I'm not quite sure what that looks like for them. There were like also some shows that were off, and I mainly found those either via like word of mouth that I heard it was happening, or being able to like check out their pages and see if they're like hyping up their show along the way. Also there's like some PR agencies that send me some invites for more Susty shows, like Sam Finger or Mila Sullivan, who created these like incredible presentations and shows, are just so good. It was really cool to be able to like see more sustainable shows kind of come up onto the scene. And I did a deep dive on my Instagram and TikTok about some of the sussiness of this brand. Like I said, Dauphinette and Page 5 were probably my favorite ones. And I just am completely in awe of the creativity of humans. And I think someone asked me this as well, as like what gives me hope for change. Humans are so creative, and seeing these like more sustainable designers and more mindful designers work with like the limitations of trying to live out their values, they end up creating such amazing works and shows that are just so unique and so beautiful. And I think that they wouldn't even be pieces or shows that were birthed without the help of staying within the limitations of sustainability and using that to enhance the creativity that they have. One of my favorite taglines. I also just get so emotional at the end of shows and cry a little bit because I see how hard these people work, and I know that their entire teams work so hard, and being able to support them is just so beautiful. And seeing all the hard work that they had being like completed and finished and honored is just, I love it so much. And then just a couple of notable moments. funny happened, even though, you know, I'm a funny, silly, goofy gal, so maybe something funny happened and everything's just always funny to me. But some fun moments where, oh, I found these insane boots. Oh my god, wait, hold on. So ThredUp had this gifting suite right before New York Fashion Week started, and one of my friends was like, oh my god, like there's some really good pieces there, because it was a clothing swap, and some people were bringing like really amazing pieces. Like she was like, I found some free acne, and I was like, oh my god, I wonder what I'll find. These boots, incredible. And guess what? One, they fit me, and two, they're brand new Prada, which, okay, just mind you, they're busted because I immediately wore them, and probably should have took them to the tailor first, but it was brand new when I got them. But they're literal secondhand Prada. My first ever Prada shoes. And if you are a bougie shoe girly and you see how busted the bottoms are, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna go get them fixed. But very notable. I wore them, my outfit, to the PH5 show. Another one was that I was able to meet so many mutuals and online friends, and we got invited to a lot of the same shows. So that was really cool to be able to run around town with them and to be able to talk with people who aren't normally like in my vicinity. And someone later on also asked about the ethics of traveling for fashion weeks, and I think that's a part of the reason why I'm okay with it, is because I feel like you're able to be on the ground meeting people and making these kind of connections and having community in person. Like I feel like it's very different trying to get work done virtually and being able to be on the ground and really create these bonds with people, to see like real change happen. Oh, Sustainable BADDIE through an event in collaboration with some other amazing designers, and that was really fun being able to meet people, and we hope to do more events in the future. Another notable thing was just how horrific the weather was. Like I wanted to do some like fun public outing changes and do multiple outfits, but I couldn't even fathom like being able to wear more clothes, because I was just like absolutely dying in this weather. And it was probably the worst weather New York's had the entire summer, and I feel like it was just a really great reminder during that time of like, climate change is here and it's real and we have to address it, and being able to support people who are making a more mindful future is like absolutely necessary. And then some top styles I saw were PH5's like layering in colors. Specifically, I really like this like mini shorts undies look. Dauphinette had all these like peplum tops that were so cute. I love a peplum. I'm a peplum apologist. Mila Sullivan had this look that had this like biker short moment that I'm not quite sure if it actually was a biker short, but I liked this like half cut, like booty kind of hanging out type look. I don't know, maybe spring summer Jazmine's gonna have her butt out a little bit. Who knows? Red Triage had all these really cute upcycled pieces, but I really like this like upcycled skirt with the denim on top, and then this like, I don't know, like a cotton material on the bottom. And then Tala had this embroidered slip that I think is so cute and makes me kind of think about how can I embroider some of my pieces and make it more fun and funky. And then all these pieces really have been inspiring me of like some styling I want to do, maybe some DIYs, and it's just really, really cute. Okay, so another question was, I would like to know how it's been as a POC in these fashion spaces and even the sustainable fashion world. How have you felt you were treated, if you felt welcomed in these spaces and that stuff? If it was more diverse than you thought, were you impressed by the diversity, or should the sustainable fashion space need to work on diversity more? Diversity can always be worked on more. I think that's just like the systems that we have in place. But I would say, I think in the sustainable fashion world, I see more of an effort for inclusion. Like I really liked when I went to Sam Finger's Heat Wave presentation. The models were probably the most inclusive that I saw throughout it. Also Dauphinette had pretty inclusive like models as well. But I think even with the inclusivity of the models and people being invited, I really want to see more BIPOC people who are hosting these shows. And that's not to say that there weren't any like BIPOC shows. Like Dauphinette and PH5 are Asian American woman owned. There's also Studio 189 and Bruce Glen, that's Black owned. I didn't get to go to those. But those are some other ones that are like more mindfully focused and sustainably focused that I didn't attend, but it was just the ones that I did end up going to. I would just like to see more, but I did feel very safe and welcomed in those spaces. Trying to think through that, but we can always use more, How do we know that brands claim to be ethical, low waste, and they really are? And another question says, did I feel like brands are greenwashing their collections? Like I mentioned earlier, I try to research these brands before I go to them, and that's not to say or guarantee that these shows when I go to them are going to be sustainable, but I keep my eye out to see what practices that they have in place. And again, I did a video talking about the sustiness of a lot of the shows that I did go to, but there was one show in particular that did make me really sad, that I didn't see or that I know of was any like sustainable practices being put into place, and it was Colin Lacasio. The reason why I went is because, one, I love the vibe, love the aesthetic. It's very playful, very me. And then in past articles, the designer had stated how they want to include like more sustainable practices and how important that is to them. But I feel like with this collection, I didn't see anything about that, and it utilized like a ton of like sequins and beading. And typically when shows are more sustainably focused and they have those types of materials, they'll usually like announce about the sustiness of those things. Like BADDIE had some sequins in their shows, and those sequins were actually derived from like seaweed and utilizing like new materials and textures, whereas from Colin Lacasio's show, I didn't see that from them. But it was so cute. I guess what I could walk away from that too is just like being inspired again by the styling. Like I've never really considered about wearing my oversized blazer too much, but I really like the way that this one was done, and then wearing it with like colorful tights and a kitten heel. I'm like, maybe I'll have to do that, and maybe I'll have to not bedazzle. Maybe I'll have to stud my blazer too, because it just looks so good. How have I seen previous/this fashion week influencing online trends later? I don't really know if I can say that I've seen specific brands influence online trends. Maybe there has been, and there probably has been, but I feel like for me, if anything, what I notice is seeing the way that sustainability has encouraged trends within those like sustainable fashion brands, being able to see upcycled materials, and then being able to see like the way that the patchwork is done because of that, or seeing like vintage beading being put into place because they're upcycling like these types of materials, or even just utilizing like a ton of fun layers, because it's like seeing things mix and match is like really good for re-wearing and things like that. So I would say in like that regard, I've been able to see a trend across those. But also I would say that I think what's really cool about these brands too is that they don't try to reinvent the wheel for every fashion week and every fashion show. And I had a friend telling me that they're like, oh, kind of sad that like none of these things were like shocking or show-stopping. And there are some shows that are really cool where they will like do more like art-based fashion shows rather than like showing like ready-to-wear pieces. But I feel like the more ready-to-wear focused brands, their shows like year after year, season by season, have a very common theme between all of them, and just like kind of have tweaks or like slightly new ideas, but nothing that like reinvents a wheel. And I think that's actually really smart, because I think it encourages people to continue to wear their pieces from past collections and be able to incorporate it into their new collection, rather than like, hey, last season we did this, chuck that out because this is what we're doing now, you know, type of bit. And I think that's really honorable and really cool. And I think actually being able to figure out and hone in on a style that is consistent is actually way harder than just coming up with something completely different. That's my opinion, but I think that's really cool, if I do say so myself. Back to the question, what gave me hope for change? And I think actually seeing the number of more sustainable designers and shows pop up this year was really cool. And a part of me, I'm like, oh, am I just more in the know this year? But I'm like, no, I actually think that like on the schedule when I was researching things, a lot of them were more sustainably focused. And then even like this agency that reached out to me that isn't even necessarily a sustainable agency, a lot of the independent designers that they were representing used a lot of like upcycled or sustainable materials or techniques. And I thought that was really cool. And a lot of like even like more sustainable like organizations, like Remake hosted their own show. We hosted our event with Natalia, and there were so many more that I couldn't even make it to because there was just so much happening. And I think that's actually like such a fun problem to have, because it shows that like we are here in the middle of Fashion Week. Like it's not Sustainable Fashion Week is separate. It's like Fashion Week can and will look sustainable if we continue to put ourselves in these spaces. And I think that even goes into my thing with like going to Copenhagen Fashion Week this past year and like Granted, there's still some sustainability issues within that week, but also like seeing it not be called Sustainable Fashion Week, it's just called Fashion Week, and there's certain standards and criteria that's meant for it. I think that's where the future of Fashion Weeks should really move towards, is encouraging these designers to have these certain requirements, or encouraging other people who are doing these things, supporting their work and keeping them around, because they need the support. Otherwise, if they're not supported, then they won't exist. So that's why my page exists, and that's why I love going to Fashion Weeks, and that's where all the passion and energy for these brands comes from me. Because if we don't support the work of these people and we just kind of hound on what they're doing wrong and not supporting what they're doing right, those right things won't exist, and those people won't have the spaces to be entered into. So I don't know, that's a little all over the place, but I think that gets me into a whole little tizzy discussing. Maybe I could discuss some more later. Who/what to follow for the next year's fun events to attend? Well, I'll say Sustainable Baddie is always trying to post articles around these times about like certain designers to follow. We'll repost events that we know about. So I don't know, I think sustainablebaddie.com is pretty great if you're trying to find some sustainable fashion stuff happening, specifically for New York Fashion Week. Maybe for future we can do other fashion weeks and let y'all know, but you know, let us know if that's something you want to see for future. And of course, just following closely with like other brands or organizations that you love. Like they'll usually be reposting events and things that are happening during that time, you know, including pages like mine. So much shameless plugs. I'm so sorry. Someone else was asking how I reconcile the consumeristic mindset of Fashion Week with sustainability. And I think it's less about reconciling the consumer mindset and more so reimagining that mindset, because I think instead of hyper focusing on the consumer aspects, we can instead encourage each other to borrow pieces, rewear pieces, style things in different ways, and encourage each other to do that. And I think it's a thing where like the fashion industry is the fashion industry and people will be wasteful, but I think there is a growing number of us who are trying to be more mindful with their clothing, and I think it's just like encouraging people to do that, and it's just restructuring how fashion weeks can look like. I feel like I've already kind of gone on and on about that, about like ways that we can fix that for future. Okay, my camera's about to die, but I'll get to the last question, which is the ethics of traveling for fashion weeks. And like I said earlier, I think connections in person are so important, especially trying to make global change. Like I've met people from the global south that I never would have encountered if I hadn't been able to travel to these different places. I think with sustainability, it's so important for us to be able to be connected IRL as it is in person, and especially like trying to make global change happen and have these kind of global conversations. It's really important to like also be in these places. And people who don't care about sustainability are still gonna be flying to all these different places for fashion weeks, and I think we lose our momentum and our voices by not involving ourselves in those places. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, I think that covers everything. Camera's gonna die, but I love y'all. Hope this helps, and stick around for future fashion weeks because your girl is trying to manifest going to a lot of them and showing y'all all the amazing sustainable things that people are doing. So yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.